Magandang araw sa ating lahat. Maayong adlaw. I am so honored, grateful, and humbled to be sharing this month's Girl Talk devotional thought. I want to thank the women leaders there in the Philippines for this opportunity. Thank you to Wang, Girly, Susan, Baby, and Susan. Thank you so much. Sa hindi nakakakilala sa akin, my name is Marie Arcellana, and I was born in Iligan City. I graduated from the University of the Philippines in Diliman. I worked for Stan Marketing Corporation for 2 years before working to help start the family business for another couple of years. I was baptized in 1994, and I went into the full-time ministry 4 months after that. And a few months after that, I was married to Ben Arcellana. Together, we have served all over Metro Manila, and we also led the church in Cebu and Bangkok, Thailand. That's a total of 11 years of ministry adventures. But in 2006, we left the ministry and relocated dito sa Dallas, Texas. Dito na lumaki yung mga anak namin. We are blessed with 2 beautiful, Jesus-loving daughters. Isabel, our panganay, is 22 years old. She graduated from the Southern Methodist University and is engaged to be married in March. Katrina, our bunso, is 19 years old and is a junior at the University of North Texas. This is a recent family photo of ours with Ben, me, Isabel and her fiance, and Katrina and her boyfriend James. Our family is growing and we are so grateful. Bloom where you're planted. That is our topic for today. Yumabong ka kung saan ka tinanim. In Bisaya, mamulak ka kung asa ka kitanom. Matthew 5 verse 16 says, "Let your light shine, that they may see your good deeds and give glory to God who is in heaven." The Bible tells us that God has a purpose for putting us on this earth, a reason why we're here. That is for us to shine and to point the way to Him. I believe that blooming or growing or thriving where we're planted has a lot to do with our hearts towards where we're planted and towards who planted us there. I don't know if you realize it, pero kilala ang mga Pilipino to be some of the most resilient, joyful people kahit anong hirap ng buhay. And what godly virtues those are. Joy, resilience, and I wish I could hug all of you who are going through some tough times, especially in this pandemic, and I do not want to discount anyone's struggles. You know, there's job loss, financial hardship, adjustment to remote learning, perhaps having the kids at home, remote work, family relationship challenges that, is almost always there, health issues, even death of loved ones. Thank you for staying faithful through the difficult times. Acts 17 verses 26 to 27 say, "From one man he made all nations, they should inhabit the whole earth. And he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us." God knows exactly where he planted us. He either did the planting himself or is allowing us to be where we are for the moment. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Sisters, no matter what our situation looks like, let us remember God is working, present tense, for our good. Even through a pandemic, even when our own sin led us to where we're at. Because God is God. He can recycle our wrong choices and work around them. Yes, sometimes we have to learn a lesson or two as a consequence of our wrong choices, but God is still working good to come out of whatever situation we're in. The way He thinks is good, not the way we think good is good. Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 11 say, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven, and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." Even when we don't understand His ways, we can trust God's heart. He knows what He's doing. These past couple of years, I learned how to help my orchid plants rebloom. Some of you might be able to relate because nadinig ko na uso dyan yung pag-aalaga ng mga tanim inside the house. And that's awesome. The first time I finally started to see a new spike emerge in my white orchid plant, grabe, excited talaga ako. As in, the spike was growing longer and longer. Buds started to appear and just started to get bigger and bigger every day. And so, gusto kong i-shape yung growth niya. So, tinatali ko siya habang tumutubo para hindi lang diretso yung tubo niya. Parang nasa-shape siya. So anyway, I tried to do that gently, little by little. But then, one day, while I was doing that, nabali ko yung spike with all the flower buds on it. I was so sad. Nainis talaga ako sa sarili ko kasi inisip ko sana hinayaan ko na lang siya. But then, for some reason, I didn't break it off. I left it hanging by a thread, and this is a photo. Slowly, one by one, the buds started blooming. Kahit nabali na yung branch. I was so encouraged to see the flowers bloom. And there's so many profound lessons there, right? Pero ang naisip ko is that, wow, flowers can still bloom even when they're just barely hanging on. Alam ni God kung saan tayo nakatanim ngayon. Alam din niya kung gaano katagal tayo nandito. For some of us, we might need to fight to stay God-focused as we wait for Him to help us transition out of what might even be a toxic situation. Get advice. But in the meantime, the way we might bloom is by doing the right thing in the moment. Maybe it's by choosing to be humble, to say the loving thing, or by taking the high road. For the rest of us, we need to embrace our season. For me, in 2006, it was the latter. I had to learn how to embrace my season. Yung buhay ko this past 14 years in Dallas ay ibang-iba compared to the first half of my spiritual life in Asia. I've had to adjust to a quieter life. I'm truly grateful now for where God has brought us, physically and spiritually speaking, but it wasn't always that way for me. Nung dumating kami dito sa Texas, ang liit pa ng mga anak namin. Isabel was 7 and Katrina was 4. I was a stay-at-home mom with young kids adjusting to a completely different culture. That's where God planted me. For a while, Ben and I just co-led a small group. My life seemed mundane, and simple and insignificant. And I honestly struggled with that. I was used to being in the limelight, being born into a political family, dancing with Bayanihan, being a women's ministry leader there. Then all of a sudden, I was a nobody. I felt exhausted trying to build new friendships and trying to get into those established circles. I became critical, in truth, because I wasn't front and center as much. I didn't have the lofty title, and honestly, I craved the affirmation. It really was a desert time for my heart and my character. But thankfully, through a combination of perseverance, wrestling, and prayer, God showed me little by little that He wanted me to embrace my calling to be a homeschool mom at that time. And I know that's not for everyone, but that was for me. For homeschooling and for making our family the number one ministry that we were to focus on at that time. Because sometimes flowers bloom even when no one sees. Looking back, I'm so grateful now for God, how God worked in my heart to see my marriage stronger and to see our kids where they're at and to see the fruit of certain causes I initiated from that season. A homeschooling support group for the church, an annual family camp, published books that support young moms, all out of that season where God had planted me. Now, as I face the empty nest years, I am striving to thrive in yet another season. Because the seasons, they're temporary, aren't they? So now I'm figuring things out again as an empty nester. The challenge for me is to stand back and let my daughters bloom where they are and in their own way. Easier said than done, hindi ba, for those of us who have older kids. Sa totoo lang, I'm still figuring things out on how I can make a difference in this stage of life. This time with just me and Ben, or even just me as an individual. One thing is for sure though, I am excited to see where God will lead me and keeping my eyes peeled for the doors that He may be opening. I want to lift up a group of young moms, all of who were part of our old campus ministry during their college days. Ilona, Maja, Chan Kim, and Minette. They started a Facebook support group for women, and out of that, we started a monthly support group for young moms via Zoom. It started in August, every second Saturday of the month. I'm just so encouraged to see these women, initiate to meet a need and to take charge and make things happen. I'm so encouraged to see them bloom during the pandemic. And I'm just so enjoying being reconnected with a lot of you there in the churches in the Philippines. Marami talaga tayong matutunan sa mga bulaklak, hindi ba? I want to show you a few. This is a photo of the fireweed taken by my daughter Isabel in Alaska. Sometimes flowers bloom after a fire. This is a cactus flower, photo from the internet. Sometimes flowers bloom in the desert. This is the chrysanthemum plant by my doorstep right now. Sometimes flowers bloom in a crowd. And from the kalancho plant in my bathroom. Sometimes flowers bloom alone. Sometimes big, sometimes small, but we all bloom in our own unique way. Growth, impact, shining your light will look differently para sa bawat isa sa atin. My challenge for you today is this. Find your way to bloom where you are planted. Ipagdasal mo ito. Get advice from someone you respect. Find a ministry, a way to use your gifts, a godly cause, a place to serve in, a person to reach out to, a person to love, a character trait to grow in, a calling. I love what Frederick Buechner once said, which has helped me many times through the years. The place God calls you is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Bloom where you're planted, sisters. Embrace where you are. Trust God's heart. Make the most of where you are at. Do the best with what you have. Yumabong ka, mamulak ka for God's glory. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. I hope to see you again soon in person. But in the meantime, take care. I love you all. Thank you.